Oh, huh?
What a nice stage.
Oh, did you go down?
Call the meeting in order. Invocation. Justin's not going to do it. We'll go to the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This evening we do have a recognition for our volunteers that helped out with Refresh Concordia 2018, and although the weather didn't cooperate as well as what we wanted to, we did still have some volunteers who chose to get out that day, that weekend, and throughout the next week. We have them here to recognize them this evening. We have certificates for them as well. Also want to give you a little bit of update of where we're at on that. Recall that Refresh Concordia, the volunteer day, was going to happen that weekend, and then the following week the city crews were going around picking up the items. We did have a report, and Ron did all the math for us, so thank you, Ron. Appreciate that. 801 tires, 70 loads of tree limbs, 78 loads to the landfill, 19 loads of metal, and a total of 355 labor hours by our streets crews. So we really thank them. We'd love to give them a round of applause. Recall that we also received a grant from the Community Cleanup Fund for the Dan Hansen Community Foundation for Cloud County, and that was to help with the cost of tire recycling, and so we just about met that. We figured it'd be about $2,150 that we paid to get the tires recycled. We received $2,000 of grant funding toward that, so that did help us out tremendously there. Also, we ordered 18 trash cans for downtown, and those were taking a little bit longer to deliver than what we anticipated. They will arrive here before the end of April. They're scheduled to deliver the week of April 23rd. We'll get those installed shortly thereafter, and then we'll close out the grant and receive reimbursement then. So now we'd like to introduce some of our volunteers, have them come up and get a certificate from us, have a photo opportunity with all of them up here in front, and that'll be the closeout of our Refresh Concordia 2018. So volunteers, if you guys would like to stand up and come on up front. All right, I've got Austin's certificate here. Sarah. Thank you very much, Blake. Miss Laura. And Laura Hansen did an excellent job of helping the sisters out with coordinating this effort, so we really appreciate her efforts. I've got one for Sister Anna Maria Broxman. Come on up. I wasn't expecting one.
We're going to want you to give a speech.
Right.
There you go. You guys are all squeezed together here a little bit. Commissioners can kind of look in between their heads if they can.
Chuck.
We'll say thank you all very much for participating. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sarah should have helped. Could have left.
Jeez, just came for the recognition and leave.
Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes for the April 4th, 2018 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 4th meeting.
I have a motion by Mark. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Keegan seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next up, financial matters. Appropriation ordinance number 7.
I'll make a motion to approve the appropriation ordinance number 7.
I have a motion by Mark to approve
Second.
appropriation ordinance number 7. Do I have a second?
Second.
Christie seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Public comments. With no public comments, we'll move on to proclamations.
This evening, we have David Garnis, our new CEO of the Cloud County Health Center, as well as Pam Campbell, here from the Cloud County Health Center to read the proclamation for Donate Life Month.
I'll be happy to hold stuff.
It's rather long, so I'll read it pretty fast. So this is a proclamation, whereas organ donation is a selfless gift that in 2017 saved more than 32,000 lives across our country. And Midwest Transplant Network is our local organ procurement organization serving all of Kansas and the western two-thirds of Missouri. They coordinated 816 organ transplants and more than 1,300 tissue and cornea donations to save and heal up to 50,000 people in 2017. The mission of Midwest Transplant Network is to save lives by honoring the gift of organ and tissue donation with dignity and compassion. The organization is the leading organ and tissue donation through excellence, quality, and partnership. The number of people on the organ transplant waiting list continues to far exceed the number of registered donors. 95% of our country's population supports organ donation, but only 72% of the population in Kansas are registered as donors. Cloud County Health Center encourages individuals to become aware of the need for organ donation and to register as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Therefore, we are declaring Donate Life Month in April in Concordia, Kansas, to honor all those who have made the decision to donate life, to focus attention on the critical need for donation, and to encourage all Kansas residents to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors. Okay. We have presents for them too.
I'm the president, Mayor.
Thank you.
Just to help make you aware.
Hi, David.
Hi.
I'm Mark Matthew.
Hi, Mark.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. David, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
I got a couple bracelets to take too. The girls at Fido.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, can we just fill it out at the, I
At
think,
the DMV.
yeah, okay,
Hi, how are
okay.
you?
Good to see
Nice
you.
to see you again. Oh, I'm running out of pens.
I thought I had 5.
Sorry.
Here.
It's okay,
No,
it's
there's
not my color.
No, here you go.
Nice to meet you.
I didn't need, okay,
You got
thanks.
one.
Oh, now she's got it.
Oh, here you go.
Thank you. All right.
Oh, can I have one of those?
Yep, keep in. Is that correct?
Yep.
You got the last one even.
Oh, no, the bracelet.
Oh, did I not give you one?
No.
Sorry.
I gotta put this on.
David, I'm Christy Hash.
Hi, Christy. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Welcome to Concordia.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Set it out of here,
No, that's enough. There's a whole lot more we could say, but we're not.
I'll introduce myself, of course. So being everybody has thrown up everything about me in my life in the newspaper already.
Thrown up.
But I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for allowing us and supporting the proclamation. I know it's very near and dear to Pam's heart, especially. So, we appreciate your support. I am happy to be here and look forward to being here for many years to come, and look forward to getting to know you all and garnering your support for the future. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Concordia.
Anybody else want?
Here you go. Oh, we just leave them all. There you go.
You're not using your organ, someone might.
Yep. Here, I'll sign it.
Yeah, these things don't go off, do they, when you go to the wrong place?
Okay, moving on to appointments. Airport Advisory Board.
Mayor and Commissioners, the Airport Advisory Board had two positions to fill, and they got two applications. One of them was Brian Donovan, and the other one was Mike Holmes. Both of them are on the board currently. And at the last Airport Advisory Board meeting, they have voted unanimously to reinstate them, both of them, and to add Amy as an ex officio member.
I'll move that we appoint Brian Donovan and Mike Holmes to the Airport Advisory Board and to name Amy Lang as an ex officio member.
Second.
I have a motion by Christie, a second by Chuck. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thanks.
New business. Easy G Sports Grill, CMB license.
I have a question, though.
Yeah, me
If
too.
you have a liquor license, why do you need a CMB license?
We just want to trick everybody into drinking 3-2 beer.
That was my question. Because I go there because I don't want 3-2 beer. How do I know it will not be 3-2 beer?
Security.
Drink enough, but it doesn't matter.
There are a few beers that they only make in 3-2 that I would like to carry. It's the only reason. Actually, in a year after, I think next year, it'll all be 6-0, so we won't have this problem anymore. But
Well, until then, could you put that on the list and have it on your menu so I never order one of those?
of course,
And my understanding about a liquor license as opposed to a CMB license is that it takes quite a bit to get a liquor license. So if an organization's approved to have a liquor license, there's really no reason not to have a CMB license.
yeah, it's a pretty entailed process. Very, very entailed
Sure.
process to get a liquor license. Yeah, I don't see any reason not either. So, thank you, Commissioners.
I'd move to approve the CMB license for ECD Sports Grill.
I have a
Second.
motion by Chuck,
Second.
second by Mark. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to geometric improvement application.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is an application to widen the turning radius at First and Lincoln. And the reason for this is for trucks entering into town to make the corner a lot easier to get off the highway safer and everything like that. So basically, I'm just letting you know that we're gonna be doing this unless you don't wanna approve it or something. You see the cost of what it's gonna cost you there and everything. It's a 90-10 match and that type of thing, so,
And we'll just keep putting in for this until we get it, right?
yes.
Okay.
Can we do this without the answer from Toby's survey yet?
We can send it in. Toby's survey is not gonna affect this, trust me. We- Oh, and Ashley is sending a letter, and we're asking Mark Paul at Agmark, they're sending letters with this to kind
Great.
of help with it, so maybe it'll help, and then whenever they decide they want to meet, maybe I could invite you guys, and everybody can go out there and meet with them, and voice your opinions to the state, and go from there.
I think with as much traffic as 81 carries and as much work as we have pulling off of that it.
Needs it.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
okay, well, we'll get that sent in probably next week then, and
Good
go
deal.
from there.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, water waste treatment plant change order.
water main break on Fifth Street, trying to get that taken care of, so we'll hopefully do this. You've got in your packet a change order, and we have a slight update to it that has to do with time. The one in your packet, the dollar value is still accurate, but the time is changing. So this change order encompasses several different things that we needed to do out at the wastewater treatment plant in order to finish up the project. These were things that came to our attention throughout the project, just like any renovation, that you'd have to have some things that needed to be done, a couple of things that might have been omitted from the original plans that needed to be taken care of. And so you can read through those items A through F. I don't know a whole lot about the technical side of those items, so if you have those questions, we'll need to ask those of Jeremy separate. What I do know from sitting in meetings with him for the last 3 weeks or so is that they are critical to the operation of the wastewater treatment plant, the efficient operation. So one of the things that helps out with efficiency is the VFD, which is a variable speed drive fan. For instance, on that sledge operator, we know that variable speed drives help save the life expectancy of HVAC equipment, for example. They're going to do the same thing with this big equipment investment that we've made with that solids machine at the wastewater treatment plant. Item D there, the slide gate replacement. It's included on this change order from a time aspect, not on the money aspect. You approved that last time, or a couple of meetings ago when we were here. So that's not included on the money side of it, but just on the time side of it. Are there any questions about these that I can try to answer? And then I'll talk about the time piece of it.
So the 14,000 that is involved with the slide gate, that is part of the 21,000
No.
that we're.
No.
It's not. That's
Okay,
that amount is what you approved a couple of meetings ago when we had when Tim came here and kind of talked a little bit about.
Sure.
We showed the picture of the slide gate.
Okay,
But it's included on this change order because it's impacted the schedule.
understandable.
Now, I wasn't here when all this began, so how much, as far as change orders, did we anticipate when we started this project and when we compensated with the $10 on our wastewater on the bills? How much have we allocated as far as a change to make sure we had enough to cover everything?
That I can't speak to because I wasn't here when it started either. So I
Okay.
don't know. Amber, do you have a good feel on that?
There's enough for several changes because we actually have enough to allow for the next phase to start that work.
Okay, so we've got extra allotted for
Planning to
this.
Possibly add more on the water bills if we go into phase two, when we go into phase two, I guess, depending on how much it is. So there's already,
Okay,
there is gonna be extra there.
okay, okay.
So what percentage would we be up to? In other words, you said there's going to be extra, because I'm just kind of curious, how close are we?
I think that's something we'd have to go back and do the figures to see how much we've collected versus how much has been spent on phase one, and then go back to see kind of what the original approvals were with the commission when we started the project to see where we're at. And we haven't done that for tonight yet, but we can go back and take a look at that.
If
and
we
get
can,
back
I'd
with
be
you on
interested
that.
in seeing if we can.
Sure, sure.
This is definitely covered, I mean.
Okay.
Is,
Ballpark would be 2 million, this is 2, so I mean, we're talking about 1%.
Yes.
is,
Yeah, and typically if you were doing a project, in projects that I've been involved in, if we're gonna plan a contingency, we're gonna plan 10 to 15% contingency depending on the size of the project. This one I would plan up to 10% contingency on. So if this change order is at 1%, I know we've had one other change order. I think we're still under 5% of change orders total across the entire project. That part I can feel pretty confident on.
is that 14,385, is that in the 2.3 million figure? Is that already in there? I mean, did they throw that, did they put that back in there, or that's just, I know we approved that separately, but I didn't know if that was in the running total, or,
Oh, it looks like the current contract price, the second line there would include that.
It looks like it should have been adjusted.
Yeah,
but it's the same.
yeah, it is the same figure.
Yeah.
You know what, I think you're right, because when you go to the next page, or let's go back up, Amber, there's the memo that Jeremy had put in there, and then a page right after it that has the change order summary.
There it is.
So you'll see, it is in there. The reason it looked funny to me is because I forgot about the basin cleaning deduct. Our staff did, we used the vac truck to help clean out the basin, and there were less cubic yards of sludge that had to be pumped out than what were originally included in the bid. So we had a deductive change order of 19,785, and so that's what helped to offset. That's 14, so that's why that didn't make sense. So I need to apologize, retract the statement. This change order does include the price of the slide gate that you guys, that we
Okay.
talked about earlier,
Okay.
that we said go ahead and proceed with earlier, but now we're approving the official change order that now includes that time and money and adds in a few other things. So, are we clear where we're at now?
Yep.
Okay, all right,
Add in
sorry for the
14,
confusion
take
on
out
that.
the 19.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, sorry for the confusion on that. So, on the change order where it has original contract price and current contract price, we have not approved a change order that has had any monetary impact to date. This is the only one on the project then. So we are at right about that 1.5% of change
Okay.
orders for the project. So that's pretty
That's
good.
good.
Are there any other questions on the items that are included? And then I'll talk a little bit about the time frame.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
We're going to go on to the time frame. You'll see on the change order that I have at your places that the actual substantial completion date is going to change from April 10th to May 29th. That's an addition of 49 calendar days. This project was bid in calendar days. The reason for that has a lot to do with the clarifier. And while it only shows up as clarifier starter on this change order summary, what actually caused the bulk of the delay was the troughs for the clarifier. They're a specialty built trough built to the circumference of our clarifiers. They're built out of fiberglass, so they have special molds. What we've realized here over the last 3-4 weeks is that there were some significant delays on the part of the supplier of that equipment. Everything from weather delays to manufacturing delays. We have a whole letter that outlines the details of it. And that's the bulk of what's warranting the extra days on the contract. Had they been able to have delivery when they originally anticipated last fall, last November for an original delivery date, we probably would not have had as many days added to the project. But that clarifier's on the critical path, and in order to finish everything else, the clarifier troughs have to be in place. Then we can finish some piping and some work around the other items that are listed here on the change order. Does that make sense? That's my very basic summary based on what
So
was
the
on
change
here.
in the dates is not costing us any extra, we've not incurred additional cost because of that?
No, we will not incur additional costs because of the extra days. The
Okay.
extra days are solely due to the equipment delays.
Okay.
It was a little frustrating. I know that we ended up doing a progress meeting on April 6th. We called a meeting with the engineer on March 30th because we were feeling like there was a lot of open, if you divided up the project into compartmentalized pieces, it felt like there was something being done on every one part, but nothing was getting finished in totality. So we called a meeting with the engineer and said we really want to review progress of the schedule, what's going on here. It doesn't feel like things are progressing as what they should. And that's when everything started to come to light that we'd had all these delays and where the critical path was and with respect to these delays. And they could get to certain pieces, but they couldn't finish anything. So April 6th, we held a meeting with the contractor, with the on-site engineer who was monitoring, with the project manager engineer, and Jeremy and I and Tim were out there, visit with them. We asked some very difficult questions. We went through the schedule. We went back and forth via email, conference call, and in person for about 3 weeks, trying to decide if these number of days were really warranted or if APAC should be eating the cost of these. So they had originally asked for, I think it was close to 64 days, and we settled on 49 days of an extension. So we did have that conversation did happen over the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
So tonight we do ask that you approve the change order. It is beyond the $5,000 limit that I have at my desk. In the effort of time, we have authorized parts and pieces of these smaller ones to go ahead and be done. Otherwise, we would incur additional delays. So we do need to have your approval on this tonight. The one thing that is still under discussion is the cost for the clarifier starter. We are coming down on the cost of that, so that consider that the $8,859 is a not to exceed price. The other thing I'm pushing back on too is that was one item that was omitted from the original plans and specs, and so one of the arguments I've made with the engineer is if we have an engineer who's built wastewater treatment plants before, a contractor who's built wastewater treatment plants before, a supplier who has supplied equipment to wastewater treatment plants before, I don't think the city's responsible for 100% of that cost if it was omitted from the original plans, because that means all 4 of us entities in the plan review process omitted that and forgot that. So we're still working through that discussion. So consider that $8,859 on the clarifier starter component of this as a not to exceed price. So I would expect to see a deduct on this amount of change order in the end. Does that make sense?
Makes
Yep.
sense. Keep pushing it. I like that.
I'll get out my steel toes and hard hat here one of these days.
There you go.
You know, I don't see that we really have much of an option, and so I guess this is just a comment more than anything else. I'm frustrated, and I understand that things happen beyond our control, but this is the second project where it seems, I'm just wondering if there's something that needs to be addressed, and I really don't even know the avenue with which to address it, but we make timeline promises, and then due to unforeseen circumstances, that gets pushed back. We have a project with the city that this is happening with. We have a project with our school district in which this is happening. And I don't know if that's an issue that we need to address with a contractor, or if that's just a question we ask in the future as we're working with contractors, is when you say this date, do you mean this date? Because this means not only what you're doing, but what you're getting from your suppliers. So
Right. You have to be able to honor that. And I think it comes down to a lot of understanding the project management process. One of the things that we discovered here in March was that there had not been a progress meeting held since last December. That's a problem, in my opinion. When you've got a project of this scope, there should be a progress meeting at least once a month occurring. And so what we had happen since March 30th was a weekly progress meeting, whether it was a conference call or face-to-face happening. So, and I think that had we been doing those things, then we probably would, some of these schedule questions would have come to light at that point in time. We could have addressed them a little bit earlier. Maybe not much, based on, they did provide us a really good timeline as to when the requests for information were asked of the contractor, when the engineer responded, when they got information to the supplier. So I don't know that it would have squeezed it much, but I think we probably could have hit it a few days ahead of time.
and I appreciate that effort. I think that that's a real prudent way to move forward. I'm okay with deadlines being what they are. I just don't like being told it's one thing and ended up having, I mean, it just.
Yeah. This is one thing that, I mean, they knew I was upset if we were having a progress meeting on April 6th and original completion was scheduled for April 10th, and now they're asking for another 69 days. That was problematic. So, yeah, agree, understood. We'll keep learning.
Yeah, no, I don't. I appreciate that. With that, I would move to approve the change order with APAC Kansas for $21,952.20.
A motion by Chuck. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Keaton. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to ordinances, 2018-3135, zoning text amendment.
Ordinance before you comes as a recommendation from a planning commission public hearing. Some of these changes were due to effective state laws that have changed on care facilities, and we're kind of behind the curve on that. And in my staff report, you can see where I went through the changes and what they entail. The first two deal with definitions and care facilities and where they're allowed in residential districts and and to reflect the state law changes. And also the commercial use tables changed to affect those, to reflect those changes to what would be allowed, more things allowed. And also, one of the changes I did was add ambulance service to all the commercial districts. When we had a inquiry about the building being able to be used for an ambulance service, I got looking at our zoning reg, and a lot of hospital, but not an ambulance. Didn't make sense, so that's one change in here. And 5 and 6 allows me as a floodplain administrator to give a variance for a detached accessory building on a residential lot that's small storage or parking facility, small garage, without having to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals and getting a variance for that. And that is the stamp you see on the red line copy. We call it a red line, but it's actually just a crossed out copy showing what we changed. That stamp is from the Division of Water Resources because they have to approve any change we make to our zoning or regs that affect our floodplain management. So we sent that to them. That's why it took me so long to get this ordinance before you after the public hearing. And then Section 7 eliminates the Highway 81 mixed-use overlay district. And that's just one simple line about a district that was created in 2006. that I never did agree with, and the planning commission's dealt with it a couple times on a couple developments, and it seems to be more detrimental to commercial development than it was intended, and it basically has to do with the distance of the setback from a residential use. Before the HMOD was created, the rule basically stated that if it's a residential zoning adjacent to a commercial use, then the commercial use development has to be 25, or can be, it doesn't affect it. All you have to have is the screening. But if you have a zoning, residential zoning next to commercial use, then the setback becomes 25 feet. Well, nowhere ever along the highway, back 2 or 3 lots, since I came in 2000, did we ever have any residential zoning along the highway. It was always some sort of commercial zoning. It changed here and there, C2, C3. Back in the day, there was CS zoning, which was a highway service district. And in fact, some of those houses along the highway that are still there now were commercial uses at one time, or had a commercial use in them. Like one of them was a barber shop, beauty shop, things like that. Bait shop was one of them. But that seems to be the controversial one here on this change. And just for, at Amy's request, I did a little map here. I color-coded this map, and I put a little memo in there on the 81 overlay district. This red line right here is the 81 mixed-use overlay district. It goes from Wood Oil, that's Wood Oil right there on 6th Street, and that's Sonic right there, and that's 13th Street. That'd be the liquor outlet, and Fastenal and NCK Mats and More, I think is the name of that business there. The red lots are empty. Vacant lots, most of them here, 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 and here have been houses that have been torn down due to dilapidation. These here are reserved by the state. We're required to maintain them, but we can't develop them. State of Kansas has them locked up. The dark blue ones are owner-occupied homes. The green ones are rentals. And you guys got a copy of my memo. The 26 parcels are rental dwelling units, and the light blue are commercial, the dark blue are owner-occupied residential units, and there's 11 parcels that are vacant. Now, a couple of the commercial uses, one right here is a church, and that's a lot of empty. This one here is the bank park, south of the bank, and then where's the other one? Right here. This is. At one time, I looked at a site plan from a new Dairy Queen going right there, but the owner decided not to do it. But this is storage. It used to be a body shop and a couple other businesses over the years. But some of these commercial lots are that one are basically vacant lots, but ready for development. The true effect of this will probably be more right in here where we got, from here to here where we got level land. This down here, once you get right in here, you're starting to hit the floodplain. Right in here, you have a lot of houses, a lot of different houses. There's a house we tore down years ago in here also, but right in here is pretty developable land. But as you can see, if somebody were to buy just a commercial lot right here or right here and try to get this, they would be very restricted with the 50-foot setback and the 25. Now, the site plan requirements for submittal still require screening between residential. It doesn't, it makes a buffer go away. The highway mixed use overlay district requires a 15-foot buffer zone, which is plantings and that kind of thing. And all you have to do is look behind the shortstop and see how valuable that was. That was the one we did on that. And it does beautify, but in some cases where you have land dropping off like that, the wall itself could be a buffer and a screen. If you could build right to the property line, and that would allow the commercial uses to be able to use more land, maximum potential of their land. And then the other thing is you always have the power of protest, you know. Now, if this goes away, then these residentials will become legal non-conforming uses, which they were before, and a legal non-conforming use can't come back if it gets damaged or destroyed by any reason more than 50% of its, or if it gets abandoned for more than 12 months. That is the sticking point right there. At that point, let's say right there, that house burnt down, that's never gonna be developed. That right there could probably be changed to residential zoning, you know. They would have to ask and apply for a zoning change, but it would probably happen if they wanted to rebuild. If they didn't want to rebuild there, then maybe at some point, these could eventually work toward more commercial type development. Now, we haven't had an explosion of development since I've been here along the highway, but I do know that the one or two projects we've done under that overlay district, it can get very restrictive if there's a residential house right behind there, even though that house may be on an already zoned commercial lot. So I guess my recommendation is we can either do it, you can accept the ordinance as written, the recommendation from the planning commission. If you don't like that line, number 7, section number 7, we can delete it out of there. But I think this will help with a less confusion and a simpler site plan for development if we just get rid of that thing. I never wanted it in the first place when it came in. I think that came in with the idea that it was solving a problem that never existed, in my opinion.
So right now, the houses that are there, are they residential?
Yes, the houses, there's 2, on the rentals, there's 1 duplex and the rest are all single-family dwellings. The houses that are owner-occupied and the rentals are all single-family dwelling, except for 1. There's 1 duplex on, right there, I believe.
So if it got changed and those people wanted to sell their house, they couldn't?
Oh, yeah, you can say.
To a commercial?
No,
Or
no.
to a residential?
Oh, you mean if, after it got damaged or destroyed? you
Yeah.
mean, or- Well, that would always be an option to sell the property, yeah.
Yeah, but they'd have to come back and get approval to make it residential, or?
If they want to rebuild, if it gets damaged or destroyed. Now, this is not counting the floodplain, anything in the floodplain, but in a legal non-conforming zoning use, can't come back if it gets damaged or destroyed by 50% unless it comes back meeting. So at that point, they either have their choice of just not coming back, going somewhere else, or they would have to ask for a zoning change to be able to rebuild back to a conforming use, which would be a residential in most cases.
And if this got changed and they wanted to sell their house and nothing happened to it, they can still sell it and
Oh,
someone
sure.
could come in as a residential?
Sure,
Or
sure,
if you
yeah,
get-
the non-conforming uses goes, yeah, that's just part of the use of the
Just
property.
grandfathered in as if it's functioning as a house now, it can continue to function as a house. If the integrity of the house is jeopardized to a significant point, they would need to
Exactly.
apply for
And
specific
they can
zoning.
apply for zoning change, and that would be the case for damaged or destroyed,
What time frame would that be if not?
30 to 45 days.
And they might not get it approved. And then they'd be stuck with a property that they couldn't sell.
That's
Or do anything with it.
That's a possibility.
Or they could
It always
possibly
is.
sell to somebody that wants to get the other piece of property and do commercial.
Well, that's the other option too. You have your, you know, it can always be something commercial. You know, I mean, there are houses that have commercial uses in them along highways and,
Yeah.
and communities.
Oh, right now, we got so much surplus commercial land available.
Exactly.
It could be years and years for that to happen.
Sure.
And then these
That's
people
true.
would be stuck with nothing.
Yeah.
Can you envision a situation in which someone would apply for residential in which it wouldn't be granted?
Not at this point in time. In the 17 and a half years I've been doing zoning changes, only a couple of them have not been approved, and that's usually because of a major protest from the neighborhood because of a commercial property maybe going industrial where the neighbors didn't like the use. You know, one of them was a anhydrous ammonia plant that was gonna go north side of town, and the neighborhood didn't like it, and they managed to have it stopped, basically, from a protest standpoint. And then there's been a bed and breakfast that got changed, and there's been a couple more, but, something like that,
I mean, I just
you know, you can't make any guarantees, cause you don't know what the future holds, but I couldn't imagine the zoning not, if somebody's house burnt, say 60% of their house burnt, and they said, gee, you know, I'm covered, my insurance is gonna cover it, I need to build back. Come in them, do a zoning change and we can speed up that process
So
too.
is there any way of
I've had
making that
special
quicker?
meetings. Excuse
I
me?
just want to make sure there's a way of making that quicker. I mean, if you got
We
30, 40
do,
days.
it's, you have to make sure the planning commission can be there and quorum, you know, and then you still have to have your public hearing notice in a certain amount of time, but what happens is the timing of the planning commission action meetings, that's set on the fourth Tuesday of every month. But if the timing works out, and then you can't, the zoning change ordinance, which I'll be bringing one to you here in the next, probably the last meeting next month, for 305 West Fifth, the zoning change is only a recommendation. You guys approve or disapprove the zoning change. The recommendation comes from the planning commission. It's an actual ordinance. So you guys have the last say in the zoning change. Even if the planning commission says no, I have to present it to you, and you can override the planning commission's decision with the 4-1 vote.
Which is still a question mark, because you don't know who would be on this board.
Exactly.
I guess my feeling on this is, why, since we have so much excess land now, why do we need to make a change when it comes down to it is if something would happen to this house? I mean, we're taking away a lot. We're putting a lot of risk on ifs, if the board approved it, and if the board up here approved it, for something that we don't really need to really change or affect right now.
That's what I said when we got the 81 mixed-use overlay district. Went through a lot of hoops for nothing, in my opinion, and the one project that could have really been nice got thwarted by that one deal, and that was the shortstop. They don't have enough room up front because they had to have that buffer zone. They asked for a variance on that buffer zone and the setback, and they got half of what they asked for. And that was the feeling of the Board of Zoning Appeals at the time, that was asked for a variance. If they would've got 8 more feet, that'd be much more comfortable back there. And the one house that was detrimental to that development, that caused the 81 mixed-use overlay district rules to kick in, is completely gone now because it was basically a piece of junk. And it was at the time that they were fighting it. And that's what, and the planning commission has said ever since then, if that ever happens again, we're gonna be embarrassed. You know, they were embarrassed about that decision, but it wasn't their decision, it was the Board of Zoning Appeals' decision to not give as much variance. They still wanted some buffering there. But in my opinion, the back wall of that shortstop could have been the buffer and the screen. It could have went right to the property line.
I just want to make one statement. I think our future land use map, and part of our charge here is to make sure that we're ready to go for development for the next 30 to 50 years. So our future land use map shows this whole 81 corridor right next to the highway as commercial development. And the reason that's underlying commercial zoning is because that encompasses the number of lots that you need to get the lot depth that you need for modern commercial development. So by repealing this mixed-use overlay district, what you do is you maximize the developable land for commercial construction, which is what the future land use map shows, and that sets us up for success 30 to 50 years from now. There may be some painful instances along the way if some houses are damaged, but hopefully we would get to a point where there is enough demand for commercial development that people are wanting to buy those lots because they are developable, and then that would finish out our future land use plan in the way that it was intended.
But if we ever got close to that situation, we could do this anytime. Is that correct? I'm sorry.
It would take time because we would have to go back through the planning commission, we would have to have another public hearing, we would have to wait a certain amount of time, then we would have to come before you. And what that does is when you have commercial developers that are ready to go now, if you're in a better position to streamline their development, because to them, time is money, and the more time that you take and make the hoops that you make them jump through to wait, the less likely they are going to be attracted to your community. It's going to be better if we can do it now and we can set it up for success now, then later on when that does happen, we'll be in a much better position to say, yes, we just checked off these boxes for you, you can jump to step 3 now.
But then we're putting homeowners in risk for no reason right now.
That was part of my reservation as well, but I think what I'm hearing is that there still is a very agreeable opportunity to where if somebody really wanted to rebuild their house where it was, that there's an avenue that would be real agreeable to making that happen. That it's not, once it's out no matter what. If my house burns down there and I want to put it back, I come to the board and say, I'd really like to put my house back, and I've got a board that I believe is not going to say, no, gee, we want to we want to doze that and just have it available for commercial development. I think that,
And then at that time, then you know what your commercial demand is at that time. Right now, we don't know what our commercial demand is, but if we set ourselves up for success with commercial demand, then at the time, in the unlikely event that we have a home that's damaged, then we can deal with those on a case-by-case basis. Right
And-
now, if we had a commercial developer that would come in, they would go through the same steps, just as short-stopped in, and they would have to fight the same fight. And again, their time is money, and they may get frustrated with the process.
But
And-
with
and
that same question though, then why would we want to give the people back the chance to rebuild their house? Because I can make that same statement. Well, I'm sorry, because someday, somebody may want to buy that in time's time, and we don't have time to fool with you, so we're gonna leave it, you don't have a choice. You just got
You know,
land
have
that
a
you can't
choice.
do anything with.
You can't deny an application for a zoning change.
You can say no.
You can deny.
we can
it.
say no.
We can say no, that's what I'm
Yes,
talking about.
But I think that
Commission.
stopgap stops with us, and so if we're concerned about being able to preserve somebody's zoning or their placement, then we have the authority to do that.
Right, but why would we if we're afraid? I'm seeing logic right now. We want to change this because people can't wait. They need it right away. So if someone came back to me, we made this decision based on that, and then someone burnt their house and came back and says, I'd like to change it, why would I want to say, well, I'm sorry, but someone may want to come in right away and I don't have time? I mean, if we're gonna make the change now, why would we make the change 2 years from now if something, house burns down and they come back to us? Why, what's the common sense of doing that? Because right now, we have excess land and everything else. So we're saying, but we need more because just in case. Well, in 2 years, if it burned down, why would we go to these people and say, okay, you can have it back now?
We may not in 2 years, but we'd have the ability to do that.
Well,
The option still exists. The underlying zoning on all of this is commercial zoning, and so what this does is it maximizes the usage of the underlying zoning district.
Yeah, it's not gonna make any difference to me at this point in time, but if some commercial enterprise were to come in and want to put something along the highway there,
Well, if I had a house that was right behind one of those and it burned down, 50% or whatever, I know you got insurance factors in there, but I'd also sit there and think that if there's a commercial opportunity, if somebody wants that land and wants where my house was and stuff, it might be a good opportunity for the property owner too.
Well, it's amazing to me that every time a house leaves along the highway, I get several calls about how can I develop that? I'd like to put this here like that.
Yeah.
And then the first thing you have to tell them is, oh, it's really not big enough for that.
Yeah.
When you talk about the 50-foot setback and 25-foot rear, you know, some of them lots are 40-foot deep. And you got a 50-foot setback
And
off the
we,
highway.
and we've got lots in town that we own that we could make them a deal on a lot that they can build their new house on that lot instead of along the highway.
we also got land we can sell to the commercials too, that
Yeah.
the city owns.
Yeah.
That's true.
I just see this as being able to open more doors than it shuts. It continues to allow an avenue to be able to preserve someone's residential property if they so choose. To me, it seems like there's a lot more benefits with really very minimal risk.
Minimal risk to us, but I think to the homeowner, it could be a
Yeah, it
big
does
risk.
open up risk to the homeowner,
Sure would. Yeah, and I guess I don't see the need at this point in time.
but is it easier to switch the zoning, say that house right there burnt? You know, this guy knows that next to him's never gonna be developed as long as the state's got that sewed up. Is he gonna block out a zoning change? I mean, 30, 45 day zoning change, and we could actually speed that up. I mean, I don't think, or if you got somebody come in here and says, I'm gonna buy 6 houses right here and tear them down, but I need to be closer to that rear property line than the 25-foot allows. So you think he's gonna wait for the zoning change, 4 to 6 weeks for the zoning change? It can go either way, in my opinion. You know, it can be detrimental either way.
Well, if we didn't have so many empty spaces on 81 right now, and then I could see the concern on the timing. But we have so much excess land, including what the city owns and what's out there. To develop,
out
I
south,
mean,
we got plenty.
if we got to a point where we even did 10% of that, then I could see the consideration to start looking, because that means something's happening. But right now, we got nothing going
And then
on.
there's nothing that says these houses can't be turned into commercial enterprises.
That's right.
But if,
And that, you know, and that wouldn't be affected either way, whether the zoning, the overlay district was there or not, that would be affected either way. If somebody wanted to take an existing home and say, put an accountant office in there, or a lawyer's office, or a
but
little
if I want,
antique
but if I want
shop or
to build an office,
Yeah.
I mean, the cost associated with remodeling a house to fit a business, and the cost of building a new business itself. I mean, I would rather build from scratch and have it what I want than to try to work. I mean, that's my opinion. I just think, I think we're getting pretty deep into the weeds on this. I think that we're really talking about very minimal likelihood of this happening. How many houses have caught fire in that area in the last 10, 15, 20 years? Do we have any information on that? To where any practical data as to whether this has even been an issue?
I don't know of any that burn. I know that, I can think of 4 or 5 off the top of my head that have been taken down from dilapidation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's obviously not a
Yeah.
residential unit that we're concerned about wanting to reapply for residential zoning.
Exactly, yeah. And then there are some owner-occupied ones there that are very good shape, you know, the owners are proud of what they have, and,
Good.
you know, and you can see that along the highway where they take care of, you know, up off a little ways, but then, you know, I was surprised that there was that many owner-occupied ones there, actually, compared to the rental. There's quite a few units, you know, 50-some units total, residential living units, and, only 15 commercial units and 11 empty lots, basically. But those lots will never be developed, as far as I know. You know, we get a lot of questions on those empty lots right there. And I'm almost certain that something would be in there. As a matter of fact, that lot right there, I've seen 3 different site plans for that lot that somebody has paid professionals to draw up a site plan on that, and then bring it to me and have to tell them, you can't develop that lot. It's not ours. We get to mow it. But the state won't let us, they're reserving that, and I believe
Now, what is that reserved for?
turning lanes, I believe. If they ever wanted to widen the highway and have turning lanes off of 11th and Lincoln, that's what I was told by Leland Tice back 10, 12 years ago before he retired. I asked him, why are you keeping us from developing that? He said, well, because we might have to put a de-acceleration lane in there and a turning lane off of 11th and an extra lane on the highway right there. So I don't understand, Ron can probably explain it better than me, I don't understand why we have to mow it, but they got the say in how we can use it. We can't use it. I think Wayne Lee wanted to put a little picnic table and some trees right in here one time, on a little exit, just for highway travelers to just stop and have a little picnic right there, and they wouldn't let her do that. But that's the deal with those lots, and I don't, you know, I don't know.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna move to approve ordinance 2018-3135 as written.
I have a motion by Chuck. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
Go ahead, Christie.
Christie, seconds. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Managers report.
Had a lot of activity in the last few days. Attended the ribbon cutting at Contact at noon today. I know Sam and Mark were there, so appreciate you guys attending and supporting that business. This Friday, we have another ribbon cutting at the KDOT's new facility out north of town at 9. I think we have Keaton on the docket to attend. If anybody else can attend, let me know. Let's see. I'll be at the KCM Spring Conference next Thursday and Friday in Lawrence, a good docket of information there as well. We held our staff appreciation luncheon today in the fire department bays and had about 35 in attendance, so it was really good. I don't know, I had a good time. You guys have a good time? Yeah, the ice cream was good. The cookies were great. I think that was really good too. Somebody laugh at my joke, please. It's okay. It was good. We did have construction of the Twisty Tunnel slide at the pool did begin this week, so it's a lot of fun watching that structure go up. Fish slide's been painted and is ready to go into the pool now as well. Staff's begun a review on the 2015 International Property Maintenance Code. I think we talked about that at the last meeting when we presented the items that, from the listening tours, that we wanted to focus on, and one was an area of blight. Looking at that International Property Maintenance Code is one step into the data research that's needed to figure out what direction we would need to go to help handle that. So to put that into practical terms, we talked a lot in those listening tours about indoor furniture on porches. That International Property Maintenance Code is one avenue that we could have to help enforce that not happening in our community. Right now, we don't have an avenue to make that happen. There's a launch of the Cloud County Home Ownership Program on April 10th, and I can't remember if I put that in the Friday notes or not, but that's a program that's being piloted through the Dan Hansen Fund. It's in Cloud and Mitchell County. They held a meeting with all the realtors in the area and local banks as well, so they're aware of it. But it does allow homeowners to have, I believe, up to 10% of their down payment at a 0% interest loan fund, plus a portion of the housing costs paid. It's for those who choose to purchase a home in Cloud or Mitchell County, and it's also targeted for those that want to move from another county into one of those counties. But for now, it's open to anybody, just to help encourage home ownership within these two counties. So if you know of anybody who's looking for a home, put them in touch with one of our local banks or local realtors, and they can get you some more information on that. Finally, we do want to try to set a couple of dates for some budget study sessions. Time's approaching again, so if you have your calendars handy, we'd like you to take a look at July. And if we can't set them tonight, we can set them probably by the next meeting, but we do want to start taking a look at that. Because of the restrictions on dates and notice periods that have to happen before we publish the budget at the end of August, we have targeted a time frame between July 9th and July 27th that we need to hold 2 budget study sessions. We anticipate running these about the same as last year. We want to hold them from about 3 to 5 in the afternoon. So we do want to look at that, see if there's a couple times and dates that would work good for you guys in those time frames. Or if you know that you're going to be gone for a certain week, let us know now and we can help narrow down those time frames.
I'm open as far as I've been told by my planner.
I'm pretty open.
Yeah, I'm open as well for now.
I'm okay.
Good.
Yep, I'm good.
Good? Okay.
Now, we have a meeting on the 18th of July. What are we going to do about the 4th of July? Will we have a meeting that day?
I was going to ask you guys if it'd be okay to completely cancel and we're in control of our agendas, and then that way, can we do that, or do we have to hold a meeting?
We have talked about this a few months ago, and we set it for Thursday. It's not,
Oh, okay.
it's not a good idea to cancel meetings.
Okay, so Thursday then?
So the 5th,
Yes, that's what
Okay.
I showed on my calendar. We talked about it at one time. We can do it Tuesday or Thursday.
Tuesday would be better.
And I can't remember if it's
Tues-
probably the other commission.
Tuesday might be better. I mean, if people want to have a long weekend, possibly, but
We can do whatever.
long
if we
weekend.
wanna change that. I think, did we decide that?
I'll have activities
the
going on.
fireworks are usually on the 3rd.
Yeah. I
So
think
maybe
that's
go
why
for the
we said
5th?
that.
Okay, so July 4th meeting is now July 5th, but we still need 2 special meetings between July 9th and July 27th. Are you guys open to doing a budget study session on the 18th?
That makes,
We're already here.
Sure.
yeah.
And Amber
That's fine.
doesn't push us too far back, because we'll
Well,
still
but
need
that could be
another
our
one either
second meeting,
before or
then.
after.
Yeah,
Have that be the second meeting,
It
Yeah.
could be the second.
the
Yeah.
18th?
Or the 3rd.
Of the 2 meetings, it's probably going to be one of those, right?
I would be fine meeting for,
Okay.
So July 18th is the first budget study session. We,
having that next week, either, I mean, if we had to have a third. I mean, maybe that means we wanna do it on the 23rd or 24th of the next week, 24th maybe, Tuesday.
24th, that's 23rd.
okay, so July
18th, start at 3.
So July 24th is our second budget study session, both at 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Works.
Okay,
okay, the 18th and the 24th, you said?
yes. 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock for the
Okay.
budget study sessions.
What time did you say?
3
3 to
o'clock
5.
to 5.
3 to 5.
And we can send out meeting planners if we need to.
Probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Make a note of that. All right. That's all that I had to share with you this evening. Did you have any questions? All right. Thank you.
Oh, commissioners, comments?
What is the status, Bruno, on that property, that filling station right next to Casey's there across from Sonic? Is that just an abandoned building, or is that somebody that likes to store fuel tanks, or is that somebody that likes to store old food, or who is?
Just north of Casey's, had been the Shell station.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, last I looked in there, there's still bags of chips and food and stuff in there.
Yeah, I don't know, it's owned, and we have done a couple of we have done some nuisances on it over the last couple of years, mowing grass and stuff, and they've always complied, I mean, as far as that goes, but.
Is there any requirement that I guess they would, I don't know if they're interested in selling it or whatever, but, is there any requirement as far as how long they can leave those fuel tanks in there without addressing that? Either,
I'm aware of it.
okay.
We have a requirement for the signage, they're supposed to, anytime you got business within 30 days, supposed to
Yeah.
have signage down, I don't know that that's ever been enforced. We got several signs around town, including, Chris Rexall's stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, the sheriff called me months ago regarding that property, because they had some people that actually had things in there they needed to get. They've attempted to find the owners of that property. I think they're out of the country. I think they're in India also.
Mhm.
And so they just upped and left. Now, part of that was they were selling some things there at that time that they weren't supposed to be selling, so.
Are they still paying taxes on that place?
As far as I know, everything's up to date.
Okay.
They just, the one behind, they also own that little house behind, and that got sold as tax, so they put main tax on that, and that was bought up here last summer.
Okay.
House, which was on a commercial lot, which is now being used commercial.
Okay. I was just curious. I've had a couple people ask me, and I've had the same question, so.
A lot of people going in there to try to get gas, too.
Yeah, it's kind of,
Is there anything we can do to push that issue as to getting it sold or moved out of their hands?
Not really, because if they're up to date on the taxes and all that stuff, I mean, zoning, with signage and zoning wise, we could probably do something if they weren't complying with that, but we can't force them to sell it if they're still paying and everything. I mean, is it kind of an eyesore? Yeah. I mean, I've driven past it, cutting through that parking lot. It's spooky. I mean, there's just stuff in there.
well, I would think they still have a lot of foodstuffs in there. It could be a possibility. It could be a nuisance for pests and other stuff.
That's kind of what I've always wondered, but I'm not sure.
But until it's reported as a nuisance, then it's not really saying this could be a nuisance.
I'll
right?
report it. No, I'm just kidding.
I've noticed rats coming in and out of there.
Deal.
What's
That's all I have.
We could look into it, I could, technically, I can't go in a building unless I get a search warrant, which I've had to do a couple of times for nuisances and stuff, for the taking down there, but,
I don't know. I guess just the idea of somebody having a,
some inquiries and see
yeah.
what anyone finds about that, but I was hoping to see if for sale sign in front of it sometime, but,
Yeah.
I mean,
The fuel tanks, like KDHE takes care of that, and if they're not in compliance, they got so long to get in compliance, or else they'll go to the property owner.
Yeah, that's a concern too, so,
They'll be watching that part of it.
okay.
I mean, you gotta do, that's an annual thing, testing and stuff like that, so. you gotta keep it up to date.
I was in Wichita this weekend, and my aunt works for an organization that is sort of an arm or a branch of the Sisters of St. Joseph down there, and helped out Saturday morning with their neighborhood cleanup in their area. and really just made me that much more aware and that much how thankful I am that we continue to have the Sisters of St. Joseph in our community. All the help they had in trying to coordinate volunteers for our cleanup. I think that we are tremendously fortunate to have that group of women who are able to be such pivotal leaders in our community. I think we're really lucky to have them, and I was glad to see them help out. Wish the weather would have been a little more cooperative, but just really appreciate them taking charge and doing all that they do.
Kristen?
Well, along the same lines of what you were talking about, Mark, what about that blue house that we own across the street from Rod's Food Store? Is there anything new going on with that?
How about the greenhouse?
Yeah,
The best use we've gotten out of that is the
The
fire
garage?
department training for
Oh,
active
yeah.
shooter and that kind of thing. And I do know that the building next door to the east of that was quite a nuisance problem for quite some time. And Mr. Uri had told me at one time he had a verbal agreement with the owner of that to purchase that, and then we'd have both them houses. And then at that point in time, we could decide whether to remove and create more parking downtown, or we tried to sell that big blue house, put it up for bid and didn't get any bids on it. And after I did show it to a couple of people, I'm not a real estate agent, but I walked them around in there. Somebody was willing to move it off the lot, but the massive cost of that and the style of construction, joists will go in every direction, and old limestone foundation. I imagine the boiler in that thing must cost a fortune to heat that house. We winterized that boiler a couple of years ago. But give me the money and I'll tear it down if you want.
So is Albert still living in that house, that greenhouse?
I'm not 100% positive, but I understood he's in a rest home now.
and that was
That's
what
know that for a fact.
Larry had anticipated.
That's a blighted house,
It is blighted, very much so.
and it's very unsightly for downtown Concordia.
Yes, it
Actually,
is.
right next to her crown jewel.
Yeah.
I've got 5 or 6 of them on the list that I'd like to get after, but it takes time and money. They stand around for very long with holes in the roof, they don't last very long.
Yeah.
Would
But
one of them
that's-
happen to be the one that's just north of Keeker's office? The dentistry? It's got huge holes in the side of it.
On
To
the alley,
east
just
of
south of-
Keekers?
On the alley.
Yeah, on the alley.
Oh, that one's, and matter of fact, I got a call from an excavator Monday, because he's given the owners a bid on that. And
Okay.
he was asking about the demo program, and the owner asked about the demo program on that.
Fantastic.
And, yeah, that one needs to come down and hurry.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Before it
fall
falls
down. It's right
down on
next to the
somebody.
sidewalk. His idea is just to scrape that off there and just tape that hill back.
Okay.
He thinks he can slope it good enough to,
Good.
and it is falling apart, and he knows it, and, it's just one of those things, everything seems to take more time and more money.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, I got nothing. So go on to staff comments.
Water line's fixed on Fifth Street.
Good job.
Good job.
So,
Yeah,
so do we expect more
no,
on Fifth Street?
no, that was just
We don't expect them.
something that.
Oh, I know, but we went up Street 6, and now we're starting on Fifth. with the
Oh,
water line, so
we have had leaks on that street, but we have leaks on every street, so we wanna start replacing the whole town, we can.
No,
well,
we
we may
can't.
have to. We're
Sixth
running out of
Street-
bubble gum.
Yeah, Sixth Street is winding down, they're backfilling today, and, they're waiting on their bacteria samples. Tomorrow, they'll hook up the service lines, and next week, they'll start pouring concrete. And Cedar, the hole in Cedar Street, they have to make one connection there, and they can backfill that, and it'll be done.
Fantastic.
Until the next one.
Yes. Thank you.
Nice, sir.
Any other staff comments? With that, we can move to a study session, but first we'll adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion from Chuck. Do I have a second?
Second.
Christie, second. Further discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Study session.